We're live. The last time we did this, I literally went live and I looked like a complete moron because I was live talking to myself and I was just sitting here like, but no, we're live now. And yes, so part of what we do and what I do is hosting the Lunchtime series. And one of those conversations is a fantastic conversation that I have with my cousin all the way from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Lauren Britz, and she's going to be joining us all the way from Florida. And I'm just going to get online and see if she can connect with me. Hopefully she can tonight. I know last week was a bit tricky. I'm sending a request. And then, we're going to be chatting about some interesting topics of conversation. And while we're waiting for Lauren to join us, we also go live on air. Lars, can you see yourself?
Yes, I can. Success.
Yay. Okay, fantastic. So we are live on Instagram, and we are doing I was just explaining the last time I did this, I looked like a complete moron with just sitting watching the screen, and it's like you are live. I'm like, okay, like what is that?
I'm live, but am I live? That's awesome. I love the blue.
How are you doing, Lars? So how are you? How is Florida?
I'm doing great. Oh, listen, it's rainy and kind of wet this morning, but it's still warm. And right now in America, I'm very glad we're going to have this conversation today because Florida is the best place to be right now if you are in America. Apparently, there's like 1,000 people a day moving here.
Wow.
But we'll talk about it. It's all about the weather, really. It's all about the weather.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at our list of things to talk about, and it's quite an interesting list with sustainable energy, going green, climate change, and the facts we need to know is what we're going to be covering today. But if you are joining us to kick it off, welcome to Lunchtime Stories, guys. Candid conversation with my cousin all the way from Fort Lauderdale, and Lance, thanks for joining me again.
Awesome, Kev. It's great to be here with you. So America's doing like this. How is South Africa doing?
We're having weird weather.
As well, hey?
We on Sunday we had temperatures reaching 35 degrees Celsius, and by Monday 11 o'clock it was pouring with rain. And then it was cold, and I was like, oh, I need to go and get a jacket. And and for Johannesburg kind of weather, it's just weird. It's just not. It's unusual weather. It's not something we're used to.
Interesting.
So and lending itself to this conversation today is, what the hell is up with the weather, basically.
Listen, I tell you what, Kev, I don't know if you've heard about this, and I'm not sure how much has been sort of reported in South Africa about what's happening in Texas in particular.
No.
But, Texas is a pretty warm state that, has pretty similar climate to what we have here in Florida. And I mean, they also get hurricanes, and they're kind of down south here.
Yeah.
Just more west. But they have been experiencing frigid temperatures, the coldest temperatures they've ever experienced. They're in a crisis mode now because all the water pipes and just the houses are not built for it. I mean, we're talking, I stand corrected, but I think it was something like minus 40. So if you think about that, minus 40 in Fahrenheit is minus 40 in Celsius.
Yeah.
So just think about that. Like, I don't think that's something South Africa has ever experienced, and probably will never, because I think people will just, not really be able to deal with that. But so there's a massive issue in Texas now, and people are, out there, the government's out there helping. But I will tell you, it is cold everywhere. Temperatures have gone down to minus 50 in places.
That is really weird, eh?
And this stays for many months. It's not always that frigidly cold, but even if you're up in the 20s or down in the 20s Fahrenheit, that is still very, very cold. So, I'm just super grateful to be in Florida at the moment, and my heart goes out to all the people in Texas in particular. And I know that South Africa has had, in the last few months, 2 cyclones that has caused a lot of rather interesting weather. And, you know, for all the Americans that don't know and the people in the world that don't know, South Africa has never really experienced natural disasters. This is like a first. This is like something new.
It is, you know, it's not something we are also not prepared for natural disasters. Like, I mean, the US often, you know, the country has hurricanes and tornadoes and all of that stuff.
Earthquakes.
We're not prepared for it. We kind of go, you know, like the weather's pretty cool here. But recently the weather's been pretty weird, you know, and there's been places that have flooded. A lot of places in Mozambique have flooded. Guys, if you are joining us, thanks for joining us, and thanks for saying hello. Gambius is saying hello, and thanks for checking in, guys. But on this topic, guys, one of the things that I came across is Earth Day, which is really cool. I love Earth Day.
Nice.
And one of the things that it does speak to is 5 climate change facts to scare you into action.
Right.
Which is a little bit scary, but you know, just to bring a little bit of conversation around this and why this is important. The worst impacts of climate change could be irreversible by 2030.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you're looking at the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, some of the stuff that they've been checking is it's irreversible, which, you know, speaks to the fact that we now know that people are moving to, or at least planning on moving to other planets.
It's going to take a minute, but
like, how many people have, like all the people talking about Mars and what Mars looks like, and you're going, this is really interesting. It's really interesting. But what's interesting about this is one of the comments about people spending money going to Mars is, why are they not spending that money on climate change?
You know,
it's a good conversation.
It's a good conversation to have. And I mean, just to speak to that a little bit is, I love this planet so much. Like, I don't know why. When I was born, I love the outdoors. I love plants. I'm obsessed with trees. Like, I love this planet. I love the sunsets we have. I love the sunrises. I mean, this must be one of the most beautiful places in the universe, if not the most beautiful, which is why we got it, right? You know, it's colorful. It's a very colorful place. And I'm also very much an explorer. I like the fact that they're exploring other places. I just don't want to forget about our Earth. And listen, it's going to take a very long time still to get there for the general population. So, you know, we need to do what we can do, and we really need to think about it, and not to just be afraid that we're all going to die one day in some sort of crazy climate weather. But, you know, maybe there are things that we can actually really consciously do. And if all of us are doing it at the same time, we can really prolong our existence on this beautiful planet. I mean, why give it up, you know? But I do think there is, like a lot of people have said, and like you said, the UN panel, you know, there's things that have to be done, or it's going to be irreversible at some point. And then what are we going to do? Then we're just going to be gloom and doom. And not everybody's going to make it to Mars. So, especially if you have children, you know, if you have children, your children probably won't make it to Mars either yet. So what kind of planet do you really want to leave them? And that's something people have said all the time. I don't know if that makes much of a difference anymore, but there are real things we can do, and we should talk about those.
Yeah. And that leads me to sort of asking my own question, kind of going, well, you know, if I'm aware of, you know, what the future holds for my daughter and, you know, and her future, part of that conversation needs to be like, what does my carbon footprint look like? And am I adding to it, or am I actually actively involved in, you know, paying more attention to it? Like, and I think, you know, that's why having this conversation is so important.
Yeah, look, you know, these types of things should be taught in school, much like so many other things that we come across. You know, that's a whole other discussion, but let's not wait. Let's not wait for other people to tell our children or ourselves what we can and do to make a difference. I'm a huge fan of the carbon footprint mapping. So you can actually map, like, and become conscious of what you're actually doing, driving your car. I mean, car and fuel emissions is one of the biggest issues on the climate change. Hello, Tesla. Hello, Elon Musk. Hello, electric cars, right? That's why one of the biggest things Elon Musk has been trying to do with Tesla is to make an affordable one so that we can all have one, So it's not just for the elite or for those who are really wealthy. But I do think in that way, he actually really does care about this earth in trying to change the fuel emissions of cars themselves. And the other thing, of course, recycling in general and the infrastructure around that. So, there's a lot we can do.
Another alarming stat to be aware of is in the 20 warmest years on record have been in the past 22 years.
That is
like
scary.
If that's not like blaringly obvious, like it's like that's really something to consider, because if in the last 22 years, 20 of those years were the warmest that we've ever lived on in the world, like it's like there's definitely something wrong. You're right. There is definitely something we need to be talking about and actively doing about it more than we are.
Yeah, and you have to wonder a little bit why people don't. Why don't they care? Why are they not conscious of this? And I think it's because they're not really directly affected, or they don't think they are, or they don't feel the effect of it yet.
Yeah.
But, this is something that one day, I've been looking around lately, just sort of knowing we're going to have this conversation and thinking about it. There's boiling water mandates out there for all of our counties. So basically the water is not good, not being reported on, but now the water is not good to drink out the tap anymore. So you have to boil it. The waterways, the systems, the whole infrastructure of, climate change is sort of getting closer to my home, to be honest. And yet I got some cognitive dissonance about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, it'll be in like 40 years. But it's actually here right now. And even here, everyone's like, America, well, it's here in Fort Lauderdale where I have to boil my water now, if I want to use it. So it's everywhere.
One of the most alarming things for me is more than 1 million species are at risk of extinction by climate change.
Yeah.
More than 1 million. It's kind of going, well, we've really made a mess of things, because if, and I'm like, one of the processes that we're doing currently is on a program that's sort of speaking to self-awareness and really taking gifts away from the learnings that you have in life. And part of that gift is kind of going, okay, so what has COVID really gifted us? And there's so much that I can be grateful for. But when you also consider this conversation and you're kind of going, okay, well, that's also something that COVID has gifted us, is the awareness that, at the moment the world shut down, the carbon footprint changed dramatically to such a degree. You could see skylines, you could see, I mean, there was and you can't quote me on this, I read it on Facebook, so I'm just going to say that right now.
Okay.
There was a post that I read about Facebook that the trembling of the earth changed, earthquakes and the movement of earth based on the fact that there was less movement on the actual planet because everything was in lockdown.
Incredible things happened in nature. There was another thing. I mean, that was unbelievable. And I remember them also reporting that the astronauts in the International Space Station that had just recently gone up, I think with the last SpaceX craft, they were reporting that they'd never been able to see China over through the smog from Earth. Sure. And now suddenly they were starting to see parts of China, and then it just kind of dissipated. And it was amazing how our beautiful planet could just kind of, when it got some rest, it could like start breathing again. And look, I mean, even things like out in Venice, where those canals are notoriously smelly and bad and, sewered, and, there were dolphins swimming around. Yeah. And I mean, everywhere around the world, people were like, oh my gosh, there's a so-and-so outside my house, like They started seeing mountain lions again in California, which is something that, you know, they see every now and then, but not really very often. So I think there's massive impact when the world stops moving a little bit. But I think that we're not going to be moving any less after this is sort of dissipated. So I do think we really need to give a lot of thought as to what can I do every day that can make a difference, especially because everyone's like, well, I'm just one little human, right? But you don't realize the powerful impact that you actually have. To be just conscious, to change, you know, small habits, we can all make a huge, huge difference. I mean, look, I know I'm probably not going to go to Mars. I mean, it does take like 3 years to get there or something, and you're probably never going to come back. So I'd like to live my life out on a healthy planet for sure.
Yeah, you know, and as you're talking about it like that, you know, I can't help but wonder, like, what if we do manage to have enough conversation to actually start impacting it now, you know, and what could actually potentially happen if we actually do, as a human species, start actually making an impact in the place that we live, right? And just being a little bit more responsible and a little bit more cognizance of what we're doing and how it's impacting our environment, you know. And I mean, like you and I spoke about what COVID did, like having that awareness, like I have awareness of like what I'm doing and how clean I am, and you know, there was an awareness around it. I think it's so important.
And, you know, I mean, with that, a lot of people, I think, feel like, well, the government should be doing something about it. And that's true. Yeah. But you got to ask yourself why a lot of governments are not. And that goes back, I believe, to a lot of greed. You know, there's solar energy, wind turbine energy, you know, all these types of energies are the energies we were, you know, should have implemented actually quite a long time ago in full force. But people didn't see the dollar and the dime behind that. And there is still money, you know, to be made. It's just a shift in mindset now. But look, what can we do? We can sign petitions, we can shout, we can scream. If our governments don't want to move, then it's up to us, you know, Republic on the ground, to do something. And it doesn't matter who you are. There is something you can do today that can, like, literally, it's like stopping smoking. You know, if you stop smoking today, even if you've been smoking for 20 years, your body's going to recover pretty fast. It's not going to take 20 years to recover. Yeah. So today is the day, you know, and I wonder, you know, how conscious are people of this? I mean, people stand up on stages all day long and talk about it. Young kids are moving around the world. Greta, you know, she's always talking about it. She's famous for skipping school because she's like, why are people not paying attention? Not even she can get their attention, or not even she got their attention, but she can't get them to actually change anything. So is it really not actually up to us just to do what we can to make a difference, you know?
But guys, if you just joined us, please enjoy our conversation. We happen to have these conversations every other, well, tonight's a different evening, but every other Friday. But it's on the Lunchtime series, and it's candid conversations with my cousin. And today we're just looking at some stats which are quite alarming around climate change and having, you know, just a bit of a conversation around it. I recently was doing a conversation with a leader of a business, a very successful insurance in South Africa, and you know, I was asking, like, what do you think? What one of the key changes and attributes there should be in what we're doing in the world today? And she said, you know what, we're not in competitive mode anymore. Right now, what we need to do is we need to look internally. And we need to shift from the inside. And I think that really speaks to this conversation, right? Like, the other thing that's really alarming that earthday.org points out is climate change is already happening, and it's detrimental to human life. Yeah. And, you know, there's actually evidence to prove this. Like,
well, now you're seeing it around you. I mean, if you're not seeing it around you, then I'd be surprised. Yeah. You know, there's an example everywhere, even in India at the moment. And I'm going to quote NPR. Yeah, NPR is our, you know, national radio programming.
Yeah.
But NPR was reporting recently on farming in India and what a difficult time they're having. There's 1 billion people in India now as well. So you can't farm, you can't feed your people.
Crazy. Yeah.
And it's all due to climate change and the results and how that impacts economics and how that impacts your environment and government and people on the ground. So just look around you. There's got to be, I mean, when Hurricane Dorian came through here, the time, I'm just trying to think of the time, wasn't last year, it was the year before. It was coming straight for Fort Lauderdale at some point.
Yeah.
And we were all just sitting here going, oh, and they reported it as the strongest hurricane ever.
Wow.
That ever existed, ever.
Yeah.
And you sit here and now you sit here and you go, okay, now the nature of hurricanes, they move, they do, but you can't predict it. So you just sit here and wonder, okay, is this thing going to slam me? And if it does, I could die. So, and then where do I go? It's really becoming very obvious. And if it's not obvious to you, you need to maybe just sit down, pay attention and take a look around you, because you will find an example of this somewhere in your life. It's crawling into the home now, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the last alarming kind of realization, or the fact that they share, and I say it's a realization because it's kind of like really, are we still actually here? That many leaders are still not taking this very seriously. So many leaders in the world, every country, are kind of going, yeah. We'll, it's something we'll get to. And I think that's really, really disturbing.
What's devastating is that it's so true. And what's really devastating is that they're open about it. There's so many people, at least here in America, politicians and followers, that don't even believe it exists. Yeah. Some people believe it's a hoax. Some people believe that, oh, well, I won't be here for the rest of it, so who cares? Like, people have actually said these things openly. And I find that very interesting. I mean, I want to help just for the pure love of my earth. But I understand why governments don't do it. Greed, politics, all that. But to actually not care, is for no particular reason is quite interesting. And I know that the current administration, President Joe Biden, has put it on, I think, his top 5 items for his presidency to take care of. However, I've heard that one before, if you know what I mean. So I'm not saying it's not true. Yeah. I'm saying that, okay, let's see what you're actually going to do about it, and how far up the priority list are you going to put it? Because it's nice to just say that, because there was a discrepancy with the old administration with Donald Trump, where he was like, well, I'll get to that someday, But, is it really something that you're just going to keep telling us? Or is it something you're actually going to do something about? I want to see real action taken, like real action. We need new renewable energy, plants. We need new factories. We need factories that aren't, basically just spewing carbon dioxide into the air like crazy every second of every day. And do you know, I was also looking at NPR, that NPR.com, if you Google renewable energy, that America is the country that puts out more carbon dioxide than any country in the world, even China, at this point in time.
Wow.
When I saw that, I was like, well, I always thought it was China. Let's blame China, right? Because of all their big factories. But even China, in their very, very low-key, very soft-spoken way, has, because, they don't report on the things they're doing. I mean, they're sitting on the dark side of the moon right now. And the world doesn't know about it. And they're implementing new moons as well. But anyway, even they have implemented new renewable energies. Their factories are being upgraded. They've got solar energy just coming out everywhere there.
Yeah.
And we're still sitting here going, okay, what's happening next? You know, so that was very alarming to me. It was very alarming because we're only 350 million people. They're a billion.
Yeah.
That says something.
And here's a question, like, this is candid conversations with my cousin. So if we had to be candid about it, what do you think would shock people into like getting it? Like what would need to happen for people to go, wow, yeah, this is a problem. We need to actually pay attention. Is it a case of countries like taxing people for their carbon footprints? Or like what, like I don't know what the answer is, because talking about it
Yeah,
is kind of, it's cute, it's like, it's a nice
yes,
conversation, but like what
exactly.
is it, like what are we gonna like make like have an actual impact on what we're doing and taking a bit of responsibility for it?
I mean, I'm not really open to taxing anything else, but not a bad idea in a way, like to make people really conscious, because that's one way to really bring in the consciousness. Well, if you're not going to be conscious about it, you're going to pay for it. But, I don't know. Honestly, sometimes I think it would be like an alien spaceship arriving
Yeah,
outside. I think seeing and
that would
believing
help.
it,
I
or
can't
some
wait for
sort
that.
of. Oh, yeah, I know, I've been waiting. I'm like, is it behind that cloud? Is it behind this cloud? I think it will take for some people something like that, like some sort of mass devastation where a whole state falls into the earth, or
Yeah,
and I'm
something
not predicting
crazy.
any of this, and I'm not putting this out in the world, but some sort of devastation, I guess, or, and I don't want to say it, but some sort of disease running through your water systems all over the world. Imagine Corona was in your water.
Yeah,
Just
or
saying.
imagine if Corona, like mutated to a point where it was airborne, and then what? So like, what does it take for people to start really questioning themselves, kind of going, well, if I'm responsible for who I am and what I'm doing and how much impact I'm having on the world right now, like, what are my considerations and how can I start making a concerted effort to change this? And one of those things that I came about was 10 ways to green your garden for Earth Day. I mean, some of these things are really great, and I think a lot of people do this already. But I think some emphasis on it would help. One of the things that I am absolutely, and I mean, it's not something I sort of share with the world, because I'm waiting for for me to have more impact so I can actually start doing it. But it's definitely something I'm going to do more often, is plant a tree. It
Yes.
sounds quite silly, go out there and plant a tree. But my happy place is when I'm in nature, and when I can see anything green, or like in my office I have plants here. I have a little bonsai right outside my window. Like I almost get claustrophobic and a little bit crazy if I can't see anything green, if I can't see nature.
That's cool.
So it's a bit weird, but plant a tree is a good start.
Yeah, I mean, plant a tree and those little fet plankies, our little,
Yeah.
what do we call these in English? Our little succulents.
Yes, the
You
succulents.
know, South Africa has those succulents. They're actually everywhere in the world. I forget what they're called, those little round green ones. And they say if everybody planted a bush of those succulents, it would take half the carbon dioxide on the earth away. It
Yeah.
sucks in carbon dioxide like no one's business. It basically cleans the air. It's an air cleaner. And it's great to have in your house as well, to be honest. There's, I love my trees as much as you do. And I'm looking right now, I can see my trees outside here through my window. But, Kev, there's a lot of little things that people can do. And planting a tree is a great idea. Now, if you're not Mr. Green Thumb, and the garden's not your place, maybe there are little things you can do in your routine that help. Like, for example, water. It's so weird how often I see people open the tap and
Yeah.
they open it all the way. It's just flowing. And then they're washing a teaspoon. And I'm like, like, you're not even thinking about this. Or when you're brushing your teeth, brush, like, do you need the water to run for 5 minutes while you're brushing your teeth? Just switch it off. Like, it's as simple as that. I was actually thinking the other day of yet another Lauren invention that will probably never happen, but a tap that actually conserves water for us.
Yeah.
That puts out certain amounts of water that we need. Like, if you need to fill a pot.
That exists like that already. So.
Oh, it does. Well, there we
go.
There we go. You know, these things, I mean, that's just water. What about cutting back on fuel? Maybe driving together with people instead of driving separately, you know, to help with fuel emissions. There's a lot of little things a person can do in a day.
Yeah, I mean, and also, you know, some of the stuff that they mention here is start a compost pile. Obviously using old food and stuff that you can actually start your own compost pile. Using a rain barrel. I know a lot of people that do that.
Oh, so yes. That's a great idea. Great idea.
And then use that water for a lot of your gardening and stuff like that. Water smartly, you know, like you're saying, be more aware of the water that you're using. And then go organic on smaller scales, you know, so going organic, and I think there's a lot of people that do it. I know that going organic can sometimes be a little bit more expensive, but I think it's definitely a consideration. It's definitely something that people need to start paying attention to.
As much as you can, you know, start small. I do buy organic food, but I'd be lying if I said absolutely everything is organic. But I do what I can. And, you know, there's a lot of things. Like, for example, if you go to a restaurant or you take takeaways, you know, ask them not to put all the plastic and the straws in your takeaway box. Tell them you don't want it. Start refusing it at the takeout window. Tell them you don't want straws. I have my own little sets of bamboo knives, forks, spoon, everything. I take them everywhere I go. If I go out, I take them with. If I go camping, I take them with. It's got everything I need in it, and it's washable and renewable, and it's bamboo. So one day when I do throw it away, it will disintegrate. You know, try to reuse what you have until it's finished, and then buy something new. Or give away your things as well. Like, don't throw away clothing. Rather give it to somebody who can use it. There's enormous amounts of things. You know, one of the biggest problems we have on the earth is littering. I still see it, but I actually literally see people take their McDonald's bag and throw it out the window. Like, how is this even possible? So, you know, it's on some levels, that's what we're working with.
Is that stuff that still happen in America?
It still happens. Now, one thing I will say is that I haven't seen it post-COVID, but I saw that a lot pre-COVID, and I'm not sure why. I have to mention this because it's real, and so candidly I will say this. One of the things I noticed when I first moved to America and throughout my time here is that people like spitting. Now, you'll know that in South Africa, we were taught as children not to spit. Do you remember? Because of tuberculosis. Yeah. So we were very discouraged not to spit anywhere. We were constantly told, don't spit, wash your hands, right? People here were just spitting all over the place. I'd literally be driving to work, right? And a woman dressed in her work clothes would open the door and like hock a loogie on the floor and then close the door and drive away. And I'm like, what did I just witness? This is so strange. I haven't seen that since COVID, but it is something that I have seen. Littering is a big thing. They like to open the door, just leave it there. But there's always people who clean up. Yeah. So, you know, become conscious of where you're throwing things, even your cigarette butts. Don't throw that stuff out the window. Don't leave it on the beach. You know, just take it with you wherever you go. The one thing I do want to mention that pops up in my mind, and this is a worldwide thing that everybody remembers. Yeah. It's the drought we had in South Africa. That was worldwide news. All my friends here knew about it. Everyone was asking me about it. That was, you know, when I was growing up, we had droughts. But we haven't had a drought like that in many, many, many years. And I'm trying to think of the year that was maybe 5 years ago, 4
Yeah, it
years
was
ago.
that long ago. It was just a few years ago, yeah.
A few years ago, and that was exceptional. And
Yeah.
remember how everybody had to roll together in Cape Town to
And
make it
you know
work.
what's interesting? It's still a, you know, if you go to a guest house in Cape Town, if you go to anything in Cape Town, people, if you go to a hotel, there are notices and flyers and sort of placards everywhere, kind of reminding you, please conserve water, please use water. Also, like don't ask to wash your towels. If you're still going to use your towel today, don't just throw it down on the floor or put it in
Right.
the washing basket, based on the fact that then they have to wash more towels. You know, so there's a huge awareness around water and how we use it in Cape Town. But one of the things that I'm also checking out with businessnewsdaily.com is organic catering. Now there's a whole new like concept, right?
Niche, yeah.
I think that's if anyone's listening out there, go and check it out about organic catering. I think it lends itself to going green.
Nice.
And also putting people in a position that, you know, people can have that option as a catering option. Like how less carbon footprint does that have on a catering company, for example, and you know, how is that sort of a niche option for business? I think that's a fantastic option.
Absolutely. And I mean, that in itself, I'm sure, has a heavy impact on the greenhouse gases emissions. And if everybody, it's weird, people don't think about it. If you just change the way you eat, not only is that good for you, it's good for your earth.
Yeah.
It's good for your earth. And greenhouse gases, you know, are something that are released when people are growing food and, you know, in the production of food these days. So just changing the way you eat and the things that you buy can make a huge difference. Absolutely. Now, a lot of people do say, well, organic. However, I do see places like Whole Foods that are owned by, you know, it's like a Woolworths on steroids, but it's owned by Jeff Bezos now. He's bought it out. We have Fresh Market, similar to your Fresh Market there in South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, these places are coming out with sort of like generic labeled organic food to make it more affordable and more attainable for everybody to buy. So like, you know, Whole Foods has the 365 product range, which is organic. Is it perfect? No, not by any means, but it's definitely a step up and definitely a step closer to helping, you know, eliminate gases and emissions from food production.
Another one that they have here, and that's, guys, I encourage you to go check it out. It's businessnewsdaily.com. Just type in their green business ideas. And one of them is also eco-friendly beauty salon. You kind of go, I've never even heard of one of those. So, I mean, how cool would that be to cosmetology in your passion, start a beauty business that's Mother Nature approved? Like,
that's awesome.
That's a whole, and you know what, like if that's something you're going to be doing, you can charge a whole nother price for it too.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's a good, I mean, I imagine if you're going green, you might just save yourself some money. You might save your business money.
Yeah.
You know, it's, and I'm sure that their offerings are probably also in line with being organic and good for not good for the body, but not bad for the body, you know? So that's a really nice little niche there too. I'm sure it will start popping up in Fort Lauderdale in no time.
So here's an interesting one, which most people don't think about. So most people in South Africa don't necessarily think about this, especially around work, because for any of those who know South Africa and for the people in the US who ever want to come visit, South Africa is really, the cities are really far apart. Everything is really far apart. Everything's spacious. Everything's large, sort of land scale. Nothing is, well, not nothing, but very little living space. Yeah. So our houses and where we stay are in the suburbs, and there's like large. You know, if you have to travel anywhere, it's going to at least take you like 45 minutes in the traffic at any given day, right?
To get anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So for example, Amsterdam, you kind of open your front door and you walk out into the street and you climb on a bicycle and you kind of head off.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like completely different infrastructure, completely different structure of the city. And I think for people to consider bicycle repair and refurbishing, like you wouldn't think, how is that going to actually make a difference to going green? But I mean, is Florida a state that kind of like, do you have to drive everywhere, or can you actually just hop on a bike?
So, America's so big and Florida is so big that I'm going to actually scale that down to South Florida.
Okay.
So Orlando would be central. Tallahassee would be north. That's our capital. And then South Florida is kind of pretty much everything down here below Orlando. And I'd say that it's very large on a mass land scale. We're one of the largest states. So lots of suburbs, lots and lots of suburbs. However, unlike South Africans who generally don't live in the CBD, although lots of people do, but generally you don't go and look for a house in the CBD. There's a lot of this. I mean, Kevin, I would just take you down on a tour of Fort Lauderdale, and I know that you would love this level of living. It's all beautiful, 360 living, buildings that are green. There's no keys or keypads. Everything you need is downstairs. You don't have to go anywhere. You hop on your bicycle. A lot of my friends live like this. They absolutely love it. A lot of bachelors live like this. A lot of bachelorettes. People who don't want to commute. Some people who don't have cars. They just have a bicycle, or they catch the tri-rail. Yeah. It's or they could just Uber, or they walk. But so where I am in Fort Lauderdale, it's outside the CBD of Fort Lauderdale, sort of like Fort Lauderdale suburbs. I'll probably be able to get anywhere in, the beach is 10 minutes, there's 10 minutes, or a little bit further, but there's a lot of internal green living, and buildings are just going up, and now they're moving them to the other little cities like Atlantic Avenue, because it's just a great way to live. Imagine you upstairs, you need to go to the hairdresser, there she is, you go downstairs, there's your doctor. Now they even have, I was mentioning the Whole Foods, right? The Whole Foods in Fort Lauderdale, right? It's probably the biggest, and it has a building that it's attached to. So if you want to quickly go shopping, just go down the escalator and there you are. You got a whole, like it's your store. It's crazy. If you go down to Brickell in Miami, it's fascinating. They have actual residential living in the mall.
Oh, wow.
And the way it's set up, like you wouldn't know it. You have to know where it is to see it, but it's very fascinating. You could take a train, ride the Bright Line, thank you, Branson, again, right into Brickell, stop right there, into the mall, into your house. It's fascinating. So yes, there's a lot of that going on around here.
And to like speak to people who are in an environment that are actually living like this. It's kind of for South Africans, it's quite a foreign concept, right?
It's very foreign.
Okay, well, I'm gonna need a car because we can't also, we have public transport, but it's really not. It's not the safest.
It's not Jack, no.
And it's not the greatest connect. Like if I have to catch a bus, I have to walk about 3 kilometers for me to be able to catch the bus, right? So it's not even built so that it supports suburb living.
Well, if I think about it, there's our city now that you mention it has done quite a bit to sort of implement a more green living. So that you get these things called city bikes. They're parked. You got to pay for them. You slide your credit card, you take a bicycle, and then you go park it at another city bike. Let's say you're driving 10 miles, off you go, you ride, you park it over there, right? And you're done. It's not your bike, you just paid for it. We've also got scooters. These little scooters that they just literally sit on the side of the road. And if you want to use it, swipe your card, open your app, scoot all the way to wherever you want, and then you just leave it right there.
Yeah,
Where
they
are you
had that
going?
in France. Yeah, I remember going to France and seeing a whole bunch of scooters lying everywhere. I was like, do people not take these?
No, nobody takes. I know, that's what I'm like. Is somebody going to steal that? Like, it doesn't happen. The other thing is, and I've mentioned this a few times, there's no bicycles to buy here. They're all gone. Everybody's bought a bicycle. I
Oh,
think there's,
wow.
like I said, a 6 month or so waiting list for bicycles.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
yeah.
one of the other things that I thought like is amazing as a business idea, especially around going green, is green housekeeping services. So for working parents, cleaning the house can be a bottom to-do list kind of thing. But market yourself as a green solutions to their housekeeping woes, right? So opportunities to be able to do this and literally create business out of it. But it's a case of going how much would people actually take that up and start doing stuff like that? Because I think again, it's that what needs to mind shift, what needs to change for people to actually show up in a different way.
Well, I mean, I think there's a few things. I think some people take advantage of the green factor and they price it up. Some people price it up because maybe the products are more expensive, but somewhere along the line, we have to make it an equal option. Do you want to use this type of housekeeping, or do you want a green housekeeping with green chemicals and a little bit more consciousness, and it's similar priced?
Yeah.
You know, we have to find an offering that gives them very little to think about, because I can't find a housekeeper for our home because they all use very harsh chemicals. None of them, especially during a pandemic, are willing to stop.
Yeah.
If I want a green, if I want the green ladies to come in here, it's going to cost me a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's already quite expensive. So I guess when it gets to that point where it's a little bit more affordable, I'll be able to take it on a little bit more, but we need to find that sort of gap there.
So Lance, in closing our conversation around sustainable energy, going green, and climate change, what are you committing to? Because
I'm gonna walk everywhere.
I was thinking, what I want to commit to is, and live is, I've already started the process of finding out how I can team up with a plant a tree kind of company. And there's world organizations that do that, and sort of just want to have that as part of the brand and part of what I do. But it's definitely been on my radar for some time, and it's definitely something I'm gonna sort of kick into gear and get into, take action on it. So I'm committing to that. I'm committing to somehow getting involved with planting trees.
Nice. Well, listen, if you do, maybe we can also plant a tree this side,
Yes.
Maybe we can plant trees together. Yay. Mine will be a pot plant, but that's okay for now. Pot plants are great. I commit to every day doing a little bit more. I am a big believer in the small actions make a huge impact. I'm a big believer in water conservation, huge believer in non-plastics, non-essentials in my house. I recycle every day of my life. These are the things I'm committed to very much. And then also just to keep expanding my own consciousness of it, and to do a little bit more research, drive less, maybe drive with friends instead of meeting at the same places. Every action I take, I want to see how it can be more sustainable for me, and how it can make a difference for the next person. Because, our businesses, for example, I own a yacht services company as well as being a photographer. I'm concerned about the chemicals we use going in the water. So we've already changed all of those to biodegradable to make sure the best chemicals we use are not affecting any of the marine oceans. So in my life and in my business, I'm very dedicated to little small steps and expanding my own consciousness, just so that I can do more and more and more and more.
Amazing.
for the environment. Yeah.
Cool. So if people want to check up or check in with us, we'll be they can hold us to
Yes, they
to
can.
account to this. But next week, guys, we're going to be on candid conversations with my cousin. We're going to be chatting about being open to talk about sex and sexuality. One of my favorite topics. I love talking about it because people kind of avoid it. They're like, "Oh my God, are we having a sex talk? Are we serious?"
Yeah, we might learn some new things.
Absolutely. I think it's a good conversation to have. Lance, if we want to get hold of you, what's the easiest way to get hold of you? I mean, obviously right here on Instagram, but where else?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to get hold of me on Instagram, please go ahead and look for Lauren Britz photo, or you can catch me on my personal Instagram, Lauren_Britz. But the best place to find me if you want to chat to me for a 30-minute complimentary consultation regarding your branding for your company is www.laurenbritzphotography.com. We travel worldwide, and soon those borders will be open. So we are looking forward to getting out.
Absolutely. Guys, and I really want people to sort of engage on Instagram. So check it out on Instagram, Kevin_Britz with a B-R-I-T-Z. Or you can check out the website at leadershipbydesign.co. Lance, thank you for chatting, and thank you for spending some time and having your insights on going green. I think it was fun, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Absolutely, me too. And have a sustainable, green, conscious week ahead of you.
And you. Chat to you soon.
Thank you so
Have
much.
a wonderful one. Cheers.
Chat soon, Kev. Bye.